While the World Challenge GT drivers are ablaze in championship contention, the oppressive summer heat has waged a war in Hotlanta.
In these GT cars, they do get very, very hot. We've taken quite a few precautions. We've got extra vent hoses coming in to cool off me. I've got a very good driving suit and that breeze. I've got an extra large bottle of drinks.
It's hot. That's all I can say is it's really hot.
You go into mid-race, there's like a zone, it's like a black-gray zone that you get into. You got to get out of that fog, and that's where you see some guys, you see some yellow flags in the middle of that, but you get through that, you have to be in great shape, and it's very hot. It was about 130 degrees in the car.
Race 2 of the Speedvision GT doubleheader in Road Atlanta next. Hi everybody, welcome to Road Atlanta for round 5 of the Speedvision GT Championship, the second round of 2 here at Road Atlanta this weekend. I'm Greg Kramer along with Dorsey Schrader. Calvin Fish and John Vizignano will be joining us in the pits, and John has caught up with the winner of the round yesterday, Kermit Upton. John?
Kermit Upton certainly knows how to win here in Road Atlanta. He had 2 significant wins, both in '93 and in '95. But Kermit, I think you'll even agree that yesterday's win was a little bit unexpected. Can you do it again?
I certainly think we can. You know, if the opportunity arises, we'll take every advantage of it. There's no question about it.
Well, this is a man and a team who know how to take every advantage. But I hate to tell you guys, right now they're still working on his drink tube and his cool suit. They're not working properly.
When Bobby Archer won the first 2 rounds of this championship at Mosport and Lime Rock Park, he did it on the same set of tires. So what did he do with those tires? He's brought them here to round 5 at Road Atlanta. Today, Bobby Archer is going to use the same set of tires and attempt to win his 3rd race with this set of BFGs. Let's see if he can take it to victory lane one more time.
Thanks, Calvin. We're going to take a look at the Toyota track map, and Dorsey, gutsy move on a track with a new area to it.
Yeah, a very, very fast racetrack, but they put in this new area at turns 10 and 11. That puts a heavy emphasis on braking, and it gives some of the smaller cars, the BMWs and the Porsches, a break against the big horsepower of the V8 and V10.
So again, this track, 28 laps, going to be very challenging. The manufacturers play such a role, and Biz has our manufacturer spotlight.
In the spotlight today is David Shart in his Toyota Supra Turbo. David, right up front, an impressive motor.
Yes, this is a Toyota Supra inline 3-liter, straight 6, right from the factory. The long block of the motors right out of the crate. We've bolted on a single turbo instead of the twin turbo, and a lot of other modifications to the outside of the motor to give us more power.
Now what about the suspension?
The suspension pickup points are in the exact same spot as the factory put them. Has the aluminum A-arms. That's all factory stuff you're seeing there. TRD, bigger sway bars is about the only thing we've added there.
Huge brakes.
Huge brakes. Alcon calipers with Alcon rotors need the big brakes to slow the car down.
You told me you haven't had one gearbox failure in 2 seasons.
No, it's a factory 6-speed Gettrack box right from the factory. Fantastic piece. Just what you said. Never broke one.
Now the aerodynamics look absolutely stock to me too. This is a standard body?
Just like you can buy, except for it's got a TRD rear wing and a TRD hood. Other than that, it's right from the factory.
An interesting competitive package that should keep them up front all year.
And that car continues to get quicker and quicker. Great effort by Dave Shart and the crew. We're happy to welcome Connie Willis to the broadcasting team. And Connie is going to introduce us to a young driver who's come stateside to fulfill the American dream.
Here's an interesting story happening in the GT paddock for today. It was in '93 that Gennady Soiker left the Ukraine for the U.S. with a dream. He had $9 in his pocket, spoke no English, but what was that dream, Gennady?
The dream was to make life for my family a little bit better and continue to race in this country in race cars. I think I was doing very well, and yesterday I started 23rd and I finished 14th. I think it's pretty good, and hopefully today I will do even better. And thanks to everybody who is helping me out.
And to let you know how well he knows this car, in 3 hours he can pull this Porsche apart and put it back together again.
Thanks very much, Connie. And as the field gets ready for the start of this race, we'll be back with our starting lineup right after this. Time for our BMW starting grid, and it is a good one, and it is based on the finishing order of yesterday's round 4 of the championship, the first of the doubleheader. And as a result of Kermit Upton's win, he starts on pole inside row 1 of the Mountain Autosport BMW. Bill Cooper in the Les Stanford Chevy Corvette lines up alongside. Bobby Archer in the Viper Speed Viper starts 3rd. Peter Kitchak in the Keywaite and Toad Hall Porsche starts 4th. Reese Cox, great drive yesterday, will start 5th in the MTI Corvette. And George Biskup in the Biskup Racing Porsche starts 6th. Row 7 will be Justin Jackson in the Porsche 911. He had a great drive as well. And Paul Brown in the new HP Motorsports Celine Mustang. And in row 5, it'll be Chip Stabler in the Atlantic Auto Exchange Vet and Gary Smith in the Zippo Mustang. Row 6, Walter Zwick in the Techmark Corp BMW and John Kohler in the Zippo Mustang. Row 7 will be Gennady Soiker in the GT Performance Porsche and Bernie Cochran in the Mobil 1 Pontiac. Row 8, big story here, David Shart, very quick in that wheel source Toyota, had problems yesterday and it finished well back. And it'll be Peter Poley in the Poley Brother Cutlery Corvette. Row 9, Kelly Bradley in the Grand Sports Corvettes of Houston Corvette and Dave Farner in the Metric Motorsports Camaro. Row 10, Pierre Barai in the Bry Motorsports Mustang and Scotty White in the MTI Vet. Row 11 is Trip Goolsby in the Novanet Data Porsche and Jerry Lancaster in the L&L Racing Pontiac Firebird. And as we take a look at the rest of the grid, Dorsey, big story, I think, is Shart, who starts so far back.
Yeah, Shart and Halsmer both all the way back in the back after losing motor yesterday, and Halsmer were on board when that happened. Shart had his turbocharger problem. Both those high horsepower cars are going to really slice through this field.
Going to have to hustle, too, to get it done. And you can see lights are out on the pace car. Kermit Upton working very hard at warming the tires up on that BMW. Then you see the purple, white, and yellow Corvette of Cooper, the blue Viper of Archer, the black Porsche of Peter Kitchak, and the rest of the field streaming through that new complex where they've removed the dip and put in a much harder braking zone, left-right chicane, and a straight line blast up and underneath the bridge here. Watch for the pace car to make the move down into pit lane. There it goes, and it's Upton and Cooper. Handling versus horsepower, handling in the Bimmer, power in the Vet. Look for it, look for the green.
No start, no start.
This lap counts, but no starts.
Now some radio communication and the starter confirming it, and let's watch them now as they head down into turn 1, but we are not underway. We are counting the laps, but it is not green. On board with Reese Cox, and look at him, Dorsey, the big wave off there. He wanted everybody to know it was not green.
Yeah, Reese put his hand up and he signaled the guys behind him. It's a good idea to do that because the guys further back you get, you don't see the starter, and it's easy to get rammed that way.
So Upton gets a gift here. He's going to lead one freebie here. Then, of course, it's Cooper and Archer and the rest of the field. And right now, Upton is just setting the pace, and he's setting a pretty quick pace, too. He's starting to hustle it.
Well, he's going to get the tires up to temperature. They're going to get as much as they can on this extra pace lap they got. They're going to get things in check so that when they do go green, they'll really be able to take off and run hard.
And so we watch as they start to cycle through the field. Probably out of turn 7 will start bunching up, and a car's down in pit lane, Calvin.
The 02 car of Kelly Bradley is into the pits. After one pace lap, he felt there's a problem with the brakes. The crew are going to try and go to work and bleed the brakes. Unfortunately, they didn't have all the equipment down here. One of the mechanics now goes under the left front corner. He's going to just try and undo the bleed nipple there, try and bleed some of the air out of this. This Road Atlanta racetrack, since the track configuration change, is really hard on the brakes, and Kelly really wants to have a good pedal underneath him.
I might have a sticking throttle problem. I'm going to take the green and see how it goes, but I might have to come in. It's stuck on me a couple times.
Well, that's Scotty White, obviously concerned, and let's check back in with Calvin.
Coming into this doubleheader weekend here at Road Atlanta, there were some changes made to the Porsche 911, particularly George Biskup and Peter Kitchak. They were actually reduced with their rear tire size, down from a 315 to a 275. They also had 50 pounds of weight added. But since the race yesterday, they really tried to reevaluate things. And what they've done is the weight stands, but they've actually gone back to that bigger tire. So look for the Porsches to be a little stronger in today's running.
And Dorsey, I'm willing to bet that Kitchak would much rather have the bigger tire than lose 50 pounds.
course, a rear tire on a Porsche, being a rear-engine car, is so very important, and that little bit of tire size, one tire size, will make a huge difference.
Well, we're going to find out just how much in just a minute. The field now bunching up quite nicely. Upton doing a nice job bringing him down well under control. Good row formation behind, down through turn 12 one last time. And let's see if we can get a green this time by. Watch for it, and we are. Good start, early start.
Now Kermit needs to lead through turn 1. I'd be defensive if I was him. I'd move over a little bit more. Don't let anybody up the inside. If he can lead up through the top of the hill to turn 3, well then, in fact, he'll be able to use the BMW strong point, the infield.
Bobby Archer entertained the thought of going underneath Cooper, but now Cooper just blows by. You don't see many passes in turn 2, and Cooper executed that beautifully.
That was horsepower and torque. The big V8 muscled the little BMW out of the way as it went up to 3. Kermit didn't need that. He needs to be real fast right here.
Down through the S's. Great idea of the speed they carry as they plummet down through the S's to the bottom and then start that climb up through turn 5 right here and onto that second longest straight on the track.
In the middle of that pack, I just saw Pete Halsmer in the NSX, who started at the back. There he is at the back of the frame right now. He is coming up through the field hot.
And that yellow Toyota of Chart making a big charge as well. Some good side-by-side action there. That was Paul Brown and Reese Cox, and Cox got sort of pushed to the outside a little bit, and Biskup dove underneath, but then he ran wide, and here comes Cox back at him.
David, I have very bad tire smoke.
That was Peter Kitchak, and he's concerned about some tire smoke, Dorsey.
Well, they went to a bigger size rear tire. We heard that before, and maybe he's going to have some tire rubbing problems. Maybe he didn't look at that close enough, but he's complaining about tire smoke. I haven't seen it so far, though.
Nice move by Biskup as he just flew down the inside of Reese Cox down into turn 10, gets on the hammer and accelerates out, and he has picked up a spot. See whether he's going to be able to hold it. Boy, Reese taking a run at him. Biskup uses up all the road, and he holds on. So the racing, even deep in the pack, intense. We'll be back. Welcome back to Road Atlanta. Bill Cooper leads Kermit Upton. There is Bobby Archer running in the 3rd spot in the Viper Speed. Viper, of course, comes in here leading in the points. Had a little bit of a problematic run yesterday in round 4. Still holds on to that points lead. Behind him is Peter Kitchak. Then it's Paul Brown, George Biskup working through, and Reese Cox up through turn 5. And this is an area of track where you'd think that Viper would really come on strong using all the torque of that V10 to climb the hills.
What a difference a tire will make. Look at Peter Kitchak, where yesterday he wasn't a competitive car at all. He is right now in 4th place, and he's right there at the back of 3rd place.
Of course, this is the second race of a double-header weekend. Does that take a toll on teams?
Well, it depends on how the first day went, really. You know, sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. If things went flawlessly for you, then it's just a matter of looking over the car. I see the tire smoke there on Kitchak. Look your car over, fill it up with fuel, put some tires on it, and go again. If you had trouble yesterday, like Peter Halsmer, having to change a motor, those guys are tired today.
But I wonder, on the other hand, for Dave Shart's crew, a fairly easy turbo problem to fix. This is an opportunity for them to rebound and maybe come back and make good. And Kermit Upton, did you see the pass? And look at Brown, very squirrely, too hot.
Oh, way too hot. Locked up on the way down the hill, thought he had it gathered up and then had to cut through the grass. But he's on the racetrack again, and I don't think he's got the radiator full of grass in the car. A little bit of flapping fender there, Greg.
A little bit of damage to the back part of that left front quarter panel. And Biskup trying to take advantage, but Kermit Upton, a beautiful pass, again, using one of the BMW strong suits, those brakes, taking the lead away from Cooper.
And he did it where he needed to do it, which is at the end of the long straightaway, so that now leaves him 9/10 of a lap to use the BMW's prowess on the infield to open up a gap before they get to that long straightaway again.
If you happen to see Kermit Upton's post-race interview from yesterday's race, I think he likes the idea of running up front here on this return weekend, if you will, to the championship.
Yeah, you're right about that. Looking back there, that's the brand new Saleen Mustang with the fender flapping around on it right now. That's a piece of fiberglass that got loose back there when we went off the road. That's Paul Brown's brand new Saleen Mustang.
Also saw a little damage to George Biskup's lower right front spoiler. We'll keep an eye on that. Meanwhile, the 4 leaders work through turn 6 and 7. And Bobby Archer, Calvin Fish, is buried in the middle of a very intense scrap for the lead coming out of the hairpin.
When Bobby Archer pulled his car down to the false grid area, the car actually shut down on him. They frantically searched around for a problem there in the electrical harness. They found the problem, fixed it. But out there on the course right now, Bobby's reporting that he's getting an intermittent problem with the engine. Keeps cutting back now and again. That may be some of the smoke we're seeing on the overrun.
Well, Calvin, part of that, maybe it solved itself because he had full power, Dorsey, coming out of turn 7. He blew by Cooper's vet.
There's nothing worse, though, than to have an electrical problem that just comes and goes. He's in there right now switching from the A ignition box to the B ignition box, trying to figure out what's going wrong with my car, but it drives you nuts because you really don't know.
Well, it has to be distracting. If nothing else, you'd rather concentrate on just driving, and you're just trying to keep the car alive.
Well, if it cuts out on you in the middle of a high G-load corner up there, you know, it can spin your car out for you. It can get you in a situation where the car goes out of control. So it's not a lot of fun to drive like that.
Kermit Upton putting on a great drive at point, and there is Peter Kitchak once again. He's in 4th, but apparently much more competitive than he was yesterday. Though that tire change, giving them a little bit more tire, seems to be working in his favor nicely.
Yeah, that car is probably the most sensitive of all cars in this field to a rear tire situation. The Porsche needs a lot of rear tire because it's got a lot of rear weight percentage.
Kermit Upton, though, driving brilliantly, using what that car has to give him as its strong suit, the handling in those busy sections. Here comes Biscup. There's that damage to that right front spoiler. This is a pretty high-speed track. What's that going to do to the handling?
Well, he must have got up underneath somebody. As long as that spoiler stays on there, it shouldn't bother too much. But if it were to rip off, he'll lose even more front downforce. And the Porsche, of course, lighter in the front with the smaller tires in the front, needs as much help on the nose as it can get.
Watching Kitchak's Porsche now as it loses a little ground and just pure speed, straight line speed to Cooper's vet. But under braking, look at this. He was well back, and he's going to try the move. And Dorsey, he made it easily.
That surprised me. I mean, he popped out way early, and I thought that was a bit optimistic on his part. But he drove it right in there with no problem, didn't lose any control, and took that position right away. And you're right, it did make it look awful easy.
Obviously, Cooper doing a nice job looking in the mirror and knew that he was coming, gave him room.
Sure you realize you got Kitchak on your back door now?
That was one of Bobby Archer's crew members informing him, as he said, of what I'm sure Bobby knows. He has Kitchak. Now, very quickly, boy, once he got by Cooper, he caught Archer in a heartbeat.
Yeah, he got around there. Now he's all over the back of the Viper. And you're right, they didn't need to tell him that Kitchak was there. Wow, look at that. Down there, that says you can't pass there. I think he just had to look at him, though. Worry him. It would worry me.
Just trying to distract him a little bit up through turn 5 once again. And a good launch by that Viper V10. But Kitchak got out of there pretty strongly as well. But looks like Bobby's got him covered at least down into 6.
Yeah, and of course right behind 6 is the only tightest corner on the course is turn 7. And it leads on that long back straightaway.
Absolutely crucial for Kitchak to get a very solid launch, carry a lot of exit speed, good momentum out of there, or that Viper will simply check out, and Kitchak seems to have done just that. The battle continues for 3rd here at Road Atlanta. And the view out Bobby Archer's windshield, a lot more clear and less distracting than the one in his mirrors. And welcome back to Road Atlanta as Kermit Upton continues to lead in the BMW. Bobby Archer 2nd in the Viper, and Peter Kitchak a very competitive 3rd in the Porsche. And Calvin, that technical adjustments made a difference.
The tire change on the 911 really seems to be helping out Peter Kitchak. In this morning's warm-up, he was 2 seconds a lap faster than he was in yesterday's race. They also made a gear ratio change, which they really think was quite significant. But he's really in contention today and looking quite racy. And remember, he was the Mid-Ohio winner in round 3.
And it was a dominant run, and he's taken a run at Archer into turn 3, not that time. And Dorsey, I'm wondering, if you get more tire and you carry more speed here and there, does that mean you might have to change the gears?
Well, what happened is he went up in tire size, and I would imagine, we saw the tire rubbing before, that the height of the tire, the circumference went up as well. And if it did, in fact, get taller, it changed all the gear ratios. It made them taller as well. So he might have had to make an adjustment just for that reason alone.
And Kitchak applying a lot of pressure to Archer. Remember, Archer is on a set of tires that already have 2 races underneath them.
And I question that call, you know. I understand that the wear and everything might be good, but the more you run these tires, each time they get hot and cold again, they get harder. And hard is okay at Atlanta, but there's a point at which the tire gives up and it just can't do any more.
I just watched Archer, and coming out of turn 7, he was turning in very, very early. That could be an indication that he's picking up a push. Is that possible?
Well, he could be picking up a push, or he might just like that part of the racetrack. You know, the outside of the racetrack right now, getting a little bit of marbles on it because we've had 2 days of racing now. So he might be just liking the groove on the inside a little bit more.
sort of using it as a cushion as he turns in.
Well, hopefully it's not that big of a deal, but it might be.
Good look there at Bill Cooper and that Les Stanford Chevy vet as he works up and underneath the bridge and coming down into turn 12. And keep in mind, this team is working feverishly on completing their new C5. They even have a few of the crew members that would normally be at the race weekend back at the shop trying to get that done.
Of course, right behind him is Reese Cox, and we talked about Scotty B. White early. Those are C5s, and those guys are doing the early developmental work on that car.
As a matter of fact, the owner of the team is here crewing, so the crew chief can be back overseeing the build on that new C5. And Bobby Archer continues to be mercilessly hounded by Peter Kitchak as they work through the S's.
Boy, the Porsche really looks better today than it did yesterday. It's getting through the corners now. We saw it wagging its tail coming off the corners yesterday. Now, putting power down looks to be pretty good. He's coming off the corner hard.
And Dorsey, even further back, you can see Biskup is starting to hound Cooper a little bit in that battle for fourth.
Or Biskup also received the rear tire brake, so his Porsche getting better too.
Through turn 7 once again, and Kitchak gets a great run out of that turn compared to Archer. That's why I just keep wondering if Archer might not be starting to experience something going away in the front end.
Well, Archer's got that V10. It's got huge torque, and that's all fine and dandy when the tires are well and happy. But as the tires get hot and worn at the back, that torque just wants to churn him up, and he can't get a good bite off the corner. And of course, the Porsche rear engine, it's noted for rear grip. It can come off that corner pretty hard.
Still catching occasional glimpses of that smoke from Kitchak's car, but it's getting better. There's less smoke. Is it part of the fuel load getting a little bit lighter and not so much stress?
Not too much the fuel load because, of course, the tank on the Porsche is in the front, but it could be one of two other things. It could be that wherever the tire is rubbing on the fender is now rubbed away, and or the tire itself. Look at Kitchak inside. This time he makes it work. The fender might be rubbed away or the tire might be given some way. But Kitchak now takes over that position from what I think is an ailing Archer.
You have to wonder, I mean, obviously he's awfully confident that that tire rub and the like is not a problem in terms of cutting a tire the way he's driving that car.
That's scary. When he said at the first lap, he called to his crew chief and said, hey, I think I got a tire rubbing, because if you cut a tire down on one of these things, and a rear tire on a Porsche, you cut it down, you're going to have a backward ride of huge proportion.
So Peter Kitchak has now taken over second spot. There's the margin between leader Upton, Kitchak in second, then Archer. As they head down into turn 6, there comes Cooper and Biskup. And we go a little bit deeper back in the pack. There's number 97. That's Scotty White driving the MTI vet. That's one of the new C5s that they've been developing as the season unfolds here. And his teammate Reese Cox had a great run yesterday, and Scotty looks pretty competitive here as well.
Yeah, he's still got his broken windshield on the right side from yesterday. You can see that. There's probably not a lot of spare parts available for these cars yet. This is one of the early C5s being developed. Like we talked about Cooper getting one. Well, these guys, Scotty B. White and so forth, they've been working on them for the last couple races.
He had a tough finish yesterday, ended up 20th, so he's been fighting up through the pack, trying to make some ground up. And another of the drivers who's been running with him back there is the number 29 machine that has also put together a pretty good run. That's Walter Swick in the Techmark Corporation BMW, who's right now chasing Scotty White. There's White, and you'll watch Swick come into view right back there. Another battle going on. That's 02 Kelly Bradley, and then one of the Zippo Mustangs, and that Viper running behind the Zippo car. Interesting, that's Jim Adams driving the Southern Comfort ADT Automotive Dodge Viper. This is the first time it's run in the World Challenge Series. The last time it won its class at Pikes Peak.
Well, it's good to see some new Vipers coming along right now. You know, that's a new one. We saw Sean Rowe yesterday in a Viper, so more Vipers making their appearance.
He also runs that in the SCCA Club Racing T1 class in the Northeast Division, and he's got the track record at Road Atlanta in that car. He knows how to get around this Road Atlanta facility. There's a good look heading down the hill. Welcome back to Road Atlanta, and Bobby Archer starting to work through some traffic here as we approach the halfway mark in this 28-lap Speedvision GT Championship race. There is Archer coming down the hill, chased hard by Cooper. Then one of the Zippo Mustangs, a few of the lap cars that they have been working through. And then there is Reese Cox, again having a very strong run in one of the MTI vets.
And that's one of the new C5 Corvettes, and right behind that, of course, is Paul Brown right there with the fender still flapping.
And behind him is Pete Halsmer from 23rd up into the top 10. Calvin, he is flying.
Pete Halsmer had an engine problem yesterday in the Acura NSX. They had a replacement unit which they installed overnight, and that's running flawlessly right now. But I just spoke to the crew, and it seems that Pete is having some power steering problems. It's an electrical system on that car, and they really believe that it's overheating right now and cutting in and out. So it's really going to give Pete some handling problems around this very demanding 12-turn course.
Well, Dorsey, I wonder, that car is essentially mid-engine. You've got rear drive and a rear engine and front engine as well. What is the steering like in those mid-engine cars?
Well, it's still going to be bad with no power steering. He said it's an electrical system. What that means is it doesn't have a pump run off the engine. There's an electric pump that helps the rack and pinion steering steer. Of course, it was designed to have that working, so when it doesn't work, it makes it pretty darn hard. And if it's cutting in and out, it makes it pretty dangerous.
But even so, Dorsey, a great indication of what Halsmer and that car are capable of. As I said, they started 23rd due to that problematic finish with the engine yesterday, and he's about to knock on the door of the top 5.
And he had to come through a lot of cars to get to the top 5, and he hasn't been helped by any caution, so he's driving quite hard today.
Meanwhile, there is your leader who has had things pretty much his own way, Kermit Upton. Since the green flag has really just sort of checked out and just started to stretch that margin. It looked for a little bit like Peter Kitchak was going to be able to close in, but he stretched the margin. There's Kitchak. Then it's Archer and the Viper, Cooper and the Vet, and the rest of the field.
I'm pretty surprised at the amount of lead the BMW has. I really think that's because we've been green this whole time. I think that these big cars need a break in the middle to cool their tires down and to cool the things down. So I think the BMW, that's all playing into its hand.
And one of our front runners in the pits.
Problem on the 22 machine of George Biscup in the 911 RS Porsche. He said he believes there's a problem with the right rear on the car. The crew are looking at it. The tire looks good. They give him the all clear. They did do a repair job on the front nose. He's obviously had an off-course excursion.
Well, something just not feeling right for Biscup, and it had to be pretty severe for him to come into the pits.
Yeah, he must have thought he had a right rear cut down or something like that. In the meantime, they looked at that. Somebody went to address that front spoiler problem that we talked about before, so it doesn't fall off.
Meanwhile, Upton continues to lead, but Kitchak, now that he's cleared some of that lap traffic, has a much clearer run at Upton and looks to be closing it up just a little bit. And he's trying to take a run at him as Upton heads down into turn 6. Now a little bit further back in the pack just a moment ago, a big moment, Doris.
Look at the top of the S's. It's Gary Smith spinning his Mustang at over 100 miles an hour. He's headed out of the park. He's out of here.
He went well off, indeed. There is a good look at Kitchak, and he is trying to chase down Kermit Upton. And you're looking at a race winner and a race leader's ballet on the pedals here at Road Atlanta. Round 5 of the Speedvision GT Championship continuing here at Road Atlanta. Good look at Bill Cooper as he is trying to hunt down Bobby Archer, and he's closed it up quite a bit and is making a serious run of this here down into turn 3. Now that drop down into the S's, and Bill Cooper has found something, Dorsey, as he is really starting to close in on Archer.
Yeah, he's all over the back of Archer for sure, and I'm looking at Archer's car, and I can't tell if there's a problem with that or not, but Coop has made up a lot of ground, and he's really putting some pressure on right now.
Up through turn 5, and Archer looked fairly strong out of that section of track, but Cooper staying very close, and Archer a little bit defensive there. Now moves over to the normal line and turns into 6.
Yeah, he was way to the inside there, and I don't know if it was defensive or not, or he's unsure of what the car is going to do, but he was off to the line of the racetrack. Now he comes back on, and he launches right now out of turn 7 and onto the long back straightaway. We'll see what happens.
In the round yesterday, round 4 of the championship, the first of the double headers, he was looking very strong, and then we heard him say in the interviews afterward that the car suddenly wouldn't turn right, and they had a failed half shaft. And I wonder if there may not be some sort of a leftover problem.
Well, he just pulled way off the other side of the racetrack again, like he thought the car was going to stall or die on him. Then he's getting back on race line, and now he's going along pretty good again.
Through turn 10, up through turn 11, and then up and underneath the bridge. And boy, he balked a little bit there, it looked like.
There's something with coming off the corners. The car's not going off the corner very good. It's flat, and then it picks, oh, big slide. And that's going to allow Cooper to come up the inside of him, headed for turn 1.
Cooper wasted no time taking advantage of that opportunity. The lost momentum from Archer, and Cooper just rocketed through. Archer got back on it fairly quickly and stays with him, but Cooper's passed.
Well, I suspect there's a problem there, though, because, Greg, you saw it a couple times now in the middle of the corner or coming off the corner. The Viper has stumbled, And right there in the middle of that downhill, it got very, very loose for so, I don't know what's gone wrong, but it was an ugly moment.
If that was an electronic stumble, I mean, if the engine cut out, you mentioned it before, you're going through a high-speed corner and the engine just suddenly stops, that can pop that back end out huge.
Oh, yeah, big time. That's at a high G-load corner. That's the highest of all, entry to turn 12. If it just died all of a sudden there, you'd get the big slider, right? No question. That was a good save.
Cooper down the inside of one of the lap cars who does a nice job, moves wide, not only lets Cooper through, but lets Archer come through very smartly indeed. And now through that turn 7, and there's the launch, the big V8 of that Les Stanford Chevy Vet and the V10 of the Viper Speed Viper of Archer as they start chugging up that long back straight once again.
Well, if Archer's got a problem, it's certainly at random when it comes and goes, because now the car looks back on song again. It's not slow for sure.
Heading up over the small crest of turn 9, the drop down into turn 10. There's Reese Cox behind Archer, and then the lap car in the middle of those two. And this time Archer looking fairly planted through there, no problem. Let's see if Cooper got a little squirrely, but that was, I think, just throttle.
Yeah, he power broke. He got a power oversteer off that thing. Watch now as they come down through turn 12. The Vet looks very good, no question about that.
But Archer very squirrely, as is everybody behind him, and they all save it. But Bobby Archer, that car not working. Peter Poley, the lapped red Vet behind him, and then, of course, Reese Cox all following suit. But Archer, that car just does not look to be working.
Well, it's something that's happening right in the middle of the corner again, and when it did it that last time, the first time through it got loose in 12, this time it got loose on the exit. But there's something going wrong with Archer's car, I'm sure of that now.
As we go back to the front of things, you see Upton working through some traffic, and he's going to get by Walter Swick, and he gets by before Kitchak can catch him, and that might just work to Upton's advantage. He got balked a little bit coming out. Oh, and no, Upton locks the tire up, and Kitchak ducks underneath Swick. And actually that exchange, and it all started in turn 5 where Upton got held up a little bit.
Well, we know Upton is not using any ABS. He just showed us that much as he locked up the front tires for sure. Kitchak's been working very hard to close the deficit. He's got the deficit closed pretty much right now.
And now Upton closing in on Gennady Soiker, who you met from Connie Willis in the Open, and he streaks by. And let's see if Kitchak is going to be able to make the move as well. He's thinking about it. There's Upton, and no, Kitchak cannot get through cleanly, and Upton gets a little bit of a break.
Well, that was a little bit too much to expect, really, to be able to pass that car from that far back, unless the other Porsche driver looked up and said, here, I'm going to be a Porsche laydown guy and fall on the sword and get out of these guys' way, but that didn't happen.
So Upton continues on as that 07 Southern Comfort Viper has moved offline to let everybody sneak through. There's Kitchak, and now he's got to try and deal with that Viper as they climb the hill. And he swings out, swings around, and makes the pass. So he now is able to get through that traffic and at least stay attached somewhat to Kermit Upton. But boy, that exchange really allowed Upton to build a bit of a margin. He's down through the S's. There's Kitchak and some of the lap traffic as they work through the S's. And John Bizignano, we understand there have been some developments with the Viper Speed team and driver Bobby Archer. John, what's up?
Bobby Archer in the pits. We got a report from the mechanic that he was unhappy with the tires. He has said in his pits that I wish he had on now. He was asking too much from the BFGs to go 3 races in a row. But right now, they're not doing anything with the tires. The tires are going to stay on there. We only have a few laps to go, but they're working all over that motor.
Well, that truly is the heart and soul of that car, that big V10. And there's a problem. Oh, look at Kitchak. He dives down underneath Upton going into turn 7. And I think that just completely surprised Kermit. I don't think he ever expected Kitchak to try that.
Unbelievable. He saw a little movement. He ducked in there, and you're right. Kitchak didn't have any idea. I mean, Upton didn't have any idea that I was going to go like that. But he pinched the corner off, and that has allowed Upton to come right back through again.
Yeah, when he went tight into turn 7 like that, he really tightened up the radius on that turn. And it allowed Kitchak, actually it allowed Upton to get the run at him exiting the turn. And now they both, well, only Upton again. Boy, he has been lucky there twice, Dorsey, to get underneath the car in turn 10 and trap Kitchak behind him.
Oh, the C5 killed this deal. It really did. Look here, side by side. I don't know if he knew that Kitchak was there or not, but Kitchak really got a beating in that deal.
And there's going to be more traffic they're going to have to deal with here. Upton dives down into turn number 1, and he makes it by the traffic, working for Upton right now. Back at Road Atlanta, Kermit Upton continues to lead, and even though Peter Kitchak in that black Porsche able to close in on occasion, Upton using traffic almost like a surgical tool. And Calvin Fish, he's showing his win yesterday was no fluke.
I just spoke to Kermit Upton's team. They smiled. They said catching him will be one thing for Peter Kitchak. Getting by will be another. He loves this Road Atlanta track just like he loves Lime Rock with the fast downhill turns. The reason being, he's a former team member of the U.S. National Downhill Ski Team, so he really feels at home out here at Road Atlanta.
Well, Upton obviously used to high speed and lots of stress. Let's go back down to the pits and John Bisagiano. John, what's up?
Bobby Archer, I know you don't want to be here in the pits. You had a terribly misfiring motor when you came in. Can you find out what's wrong?
I'm not sure. It happened on the first lap, and it was coming and going, and then all of a sudden I came up with the back straightaway and it just shut off.
We've always relied on this very strong V10 power that totally finished your race.
Well, the V10 power has been great. It's some kind of electrical gremlin right now, and yeah, you're right. We finished every race up until now, and we're pedaling as fast as we could, but we were no match for the other cars today.
Well, and that battle coming out of turn 7 is awesome, Biz. As you just saw, Kitchak tried to move to the inside, got the door shut on him firmly by Upton, and then Kitchak trying to go to throttle got all squirrely.
Well, Kermit locked the brakes up again like we saw before. He carried the brake lock up into the corner. It wasn't close enough that time. You're right. He lit up, Kitchak lit up the rear tires of the Porsche.
And as a result, Upton was able to get out of turn 7 much better and opens that margin up once again. And Kitchak really trying anything he can right now to try and find a way by the BMW.
Well, he's going to have to catch up to it before he can find a way by it. And it's just been about this thing right now looking back. There is Peter Halsmer with the Acura NSX, who's had a good day starting at the back of the pack.
That is a great scrap and a great story. And Halsmer dives down the inside of Reese Cox and looks to have made the pass. Awesome move, very close.
Boy, yeah, he used the NSX brakes to get by that C5 Corvette. But look at the Corvette with the power, side by side underneath the bridge. I don't think Halsmer will give it to him, no. But watch for turn 1.
Well, it depends on how good a run Reese gets here. Halsmer carries some pretty good momentum. Reese tucked right in behind. Let's watch for it. And Halsmer able to go a little deeper into 1 and makes that pass stick. And Dorsey, what a remarkable story. 23rd is where Halsmer started. That was a pass for 4th with Archer's retirement.
Yeah, and of course a brand new power plant put in overnight there, so there's always that question, how good is it going to be? It appears to be pretty good today, as Halsmer's doing a great job.
I'm guessing Halsmer's going to ask the crew to disconnect the power steering all the time.
Well, I don't know if he'll do that. We'll see what shape he's in when he gets out of this thing. That's brutal when you have to do that. You find a way to do it, but it's not fun.
Meanwhile, back at the front, look at Kitchak. He has caught, as you said, he's got to catch him first, Dorsey, and he is running up and down.
Now he's in a position to do something. He was a little too far back before, but with traffic up in front, like there, it seems to be getting out of the way. That's good for both of them. He is within striking distance.
Closes up under braking into turn 10, up through 11, and hard on the throttle, up and underneath the bridge, and back down to complete one more lap. And he is running very strong, closing in on race leader Kermit Upton, who is feeling more than just the Atlanta heat here. He's feeling the heat from Kitchak. We'll be right back. Back at Road Atlanta as we're about to wrap up round 5 of the Speedvision GT Championship. That's the story. Kermit Upton leads it, but it is by no means comfortable.
Upton has led the whole way, but Peter Kitchak is right there with only a couple laps or so to go. The Porsche looking very, very strong, like it could win this race.
And Dorsey, if it weren't for Upton occasionally catching traffic at the most fortuitous of times, Kitchak could very well be in the front of this one. Upton turns into 6.
Peters, remember, Archer's out, Biskup's out, championship. If you got a good shot, go for it, but remember, championship.
Dorsey, that's some of the most sage advice from the crew. Kermit Upton is an interloper in this. He's not a player in the points championship at all. That crew member thinking.
Yeah, thinking for sure. And when you're in the heat of battle, you don't have time to have that kind of thought yourself. So for your crew guy to get on there and say, hey, think about this before we do it. Don't put your nose in there and get it knocked off. That's a smart thing for that crew chief to have said.
When you're in the hot seat, the adrenaline's pumping. It's nice to have somebody back there looking at, as they say, the big picture.
Yeah, because you just want to win the race and you don't care what it takes. And sometimes you have to care. You got to look at that big picture because at the end of the season, a DNF can make the difference between whether or not you win that championship.
They sweep out from underneath the bridge through turn 12. Expect the white flag. There it is. 1 lap to go, and Kitchak has got to get it done.
1 to go. This is it.
There's the word from the crew, just in case you didn't see the white. He has got to do something here, and he's got to do it fairly soon. And Upton, squirrely, up and through turn 1 into 2.
Well, that's what you're looking for. You're looking for the car in front of you to make just the smallest little mistake that you can capitalize on. Right now, Kitchak going around through turn 4, half a lap or so to go, but Upton with a pretty big lead. I don't know, without a mistake, I don't see that closing in that much.
Upton has not made any mistakes this weekend. There's a good look at Cooper, who continues to run in 3rd spot, but look at Halsmer.
Halsmer all the way up in there, almost to battle Cooper on the last lap of the race. Halsmer's gone from the last all the way up into 3rd now.
Halsmer's fighting to get by that Scotty White to lap down now in that MTI vet, and he had to struggle through that. And 2 of the team cars looping it. The Corvettes of Houston team, one of them spinning, the other one continuing. Let's take a look at a replay from Scotty White's car.
Yeah, baby!
Well, Scotty liked that exchange.
Well, you hate to do that. I mean, it's cruel in a way, but you like to see that in your rearview mirror when your teammates are spinning, not your teammates, but your opposition spinning through the field. Yeah, I don't have to race them for the finish.
2 down, less to worry about. Meanwhile, last time down into turn 10, it's Upton and Kitchak. That may have been his last shot. Under braking where that Porsche excels. And Kermit seems to have him covered, Doris, one last time up and under the bridge.
One last turn to go. It's turn 12, the high-speed corner. Nothing going to be done here. Road Atlanta sweeper and a Road Atlanta sweep for that man up front.
What a great finish, and look at that, an absolutely ecstatic crew. Kermit Upton came here. He hasn't raced in the championship in a couple years and promptly sweeps the doubleheader. Awesome performance. Here is Cooper, as he has the lap car, one of the Zippo Mustangs, between he and Halsmer, and a fair amount of space. I think he just has to pedal carefully. He'll have 3rd, and what a great drive by Halsmer if he does hold on to 4th.
Yeah, that's a good run from the back to the front. Not a lot of caution to help you, and those guys worked awful hard all night long. Still were working this morning, getting that engine buttoned in.
So there's Cooper and Halsmer.
Woo! That was intense. The Beamer is back with a vengeance.
The Beamer's back, and you notice that he put his head down. It is hot. It is hard work here at Road Atlanta. We'll visit with Kermit in just a minute.
Upton has arrived in the pits. He looks very tired, but very, very happy. We know the crew's happy. We saw that. Kermit, if anyone was wondering if your victory yesterday was a fluke, you certainly proved your way back to victory circle today.
Well, you know, I've had a lot of time to work on my physical fitness since I haven't been racing the last couple of years, and I'm probably in better shape than I've been in the last 10 years. And, you know, in this heat, that's got a lot to do with it.
What kind of shape is the car in? Where were your advantages?
I'll tell you, I didn't have a lot of advantages. You know, I was just driving the wheels off that, and I'm sure your cameras picked that up. But incredible. I really didn't have much of an advantage. If I said I did, I'd have to say it's over in the S's, you know, on the back of the track, over around turn 2, 3, and then coming off the chicane.
BMW handling comes through again to victory circle.
BMW handling indeed, and Kermit Upton doing the driving as he completes the sweep here at Road Atlanta. Kitchak, a great 2nd, Cooper 3rd, Halsmer 22nd to 4th, Reese Cox another top 5 finish. Dave Shart very strong in the Toyota, 15th to 7th, Scotty White 19th to 10th. And maybe the big story here, Dorsey, as we look at the rest of the points, is Archer, 23rd place finish.
Yeah, that electrical gremlin finally stopped his steamroller train of wins so far. That's a tough break for him. He'll have to work on that for next time.
Very tough break. But again, Peter Kitchak doing exactly what he needed to do, getting the help with that tire change, and then driving the wheels off that car. He's down in victory circle, and he's with Calvin.
Peter Kitchak in the 911 coming in 2nd. You really made things interesting there at the end, really put the pressure on Kermit, but he had some straightaway speed in that BMW today.
Oh, it was hard to deal with him on the straightaway. We were real close in the turns, and we'd get up inside of him a couple of times. We actually got by him once, but he drove just a fabulous race. And, you know, fortunately, we had good tires, and they lasted. We actually ran the same tires in this race that we won the race at Mid-Ohio with a few weeks ago. And the BF Goodriches just performed really well, and the Porsche went well, and we're really pleased.
The conditions here were unbelievable, but for Pete Halsmer, it was even tougher. Power steering problems, Pete, in the Acura NSX.
Yeah, they went out early. Fortunately, it gave me a lot of time to try and acclimate to it, but it wasn't a help. It's a chore, but hey, that's the name of the game, is deal with what you got. But it ran awful darn good. We were pretty pleased with it. you know, the Acura is just running good and running good and running good. We had that little glitch problem the race before, but I'm pleased with it, but just keep working at it. Mitch maybe he'll help us a little bit. I think he sees that we're hard pressed to compete with the first 2 or 3 cars, but we're getting in there.
Any chance of victory at Three Rivers?
Oh, we'll hope so. Everybody says that's our track, so by God, we're going to go get it if we can.
We look forward to seeing it, Pete.
Thanks, Al.
They alluded to Three Rivers. The next race is street course and a combined event, Dorsey, the GTN Touring running together. That should be interesting.
That's going to make it better for some of the real agile cars than the guys with the big horsepower, that's for sure.
No question about it, and those manufacturers, the balancing act in terms of the technical rules seem to be tightening things up. So please join us at Three Rivers once again for Dorsey Schrader, Calvin Fish, John Bizignano, and Connie Willis. I'm Greg Creamer. We'll see you next time for the Speedvision GT Championship.